Hi everyone, my name is Mary Schumann. I am a realtor in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and every week I do videos about all things real estate and life in the Twin Cities. If this is your first time visiting my channel, I encourage you to go ahead and hit the subscribe button and then hit the little bell right after it and you'll be notified every time I post a new video. This video is all about moving to Minneapolis and the Twin Cities. So if you've never lived here before and you're moving from a different part of the country, this video is for you. I have a hard copy version of my relocation guide, and that is available in the description box below this video. If you're watching on a mobile device, all you need to do is tap the title of the video and the description box will appear. So, you're moving to Minneapolis. What does this mean for you? So we moved from Chicago and we had never really given Minnesota or Minneapolis a thought as far as a place to live. And any thoughts that I did give it were not necessarily that positive because I had a lot of stereotypes trapped in my brain and it just seemed like it was remote and maybe cold. So I wanted to dispel a couple of those and then also give you guys an overview of what to expect in the Twin Cities. So first off, yes, it does get cold. That's just a fact of life, but it's winter just like anywhere else. And if you wear the right clothes, you're fine. So next, and then the next thing is remote. While Minneapolis itself might be a little remote from other major cities in the United States, it's actually a large city. There are 3.4 million people living in the metro area. And what that means is that this is not podunk. And I know podunk because I grew up in podunk. So I know it when I see it. And I'm not in it now. Minneapolis has most of the amenities that I was used to in Chicago, but they are far more accessible and at a lower price. We don't have the traffic jams that we had to deal with in Chicago, so it is far easier to get in and out of the city and go to things that you want to without planning extra hours and lots of money for parking. If you do need to get in and out of Minneapolis because you're flying for work or pleasure, Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport is served by 17 different commercial passenger airlines. They average typically almost 410,000 flights in and out of that airport every year. If your concern is more food than flights, I've got good news for you there too, because Minneapolis is home to several James Beard award-winning chefs, and if you're a foodie, you know that that's kind of like the Oscars in food. Even if it's not a James Beard award-winning restaurant, there are plenty of great places to eat in Minneapolis-St. Paul. So Nicollet Avenue has the nickname of Eat Street, and you can find just about everything up and down that street, but it's not limited to there, trust me. If you really like craft beers, Minneapolis has you covered there too, because we have 56 craft breweries in the metro area, so you could meet up with your pals and try a new one every weekend and still have some left over at the end of the year. If you like the arts, you're in the right spot too. We have large theaters that host the traveling Broadway shows downtown. And then as you move out throughout the city, there are a lot of smaller theaters. The pride of Minneapolis really is the Guthrie Theater downtown right on the Mississippi River. It's just beautiful. Okay, museums for young and old. If you're looking for more of a traditional type art museum, the Minneapolis Institute of Art is the place for you. And the great thing about that is it's free, so you can go in there. If it's a cold day or a hot day and you want to get out of the weather and wander through the gallery, they have works spanning 5,000 years and 5 continents. As you enter the Minneapolis Institute of Art, on your left you'll see the entrance to the Children's Theater. And that's kind of a big deal here as well. So if you have little kids and you want to really get them introduced to theater, that would be the place to go. If you're interested in contemporary art, the Walker is where you'll want to go to see that. And that is adjacent to the Minneapolis Sculpture Garden. And a lot of people are familiar with the spoon and cherry sculpture that's in the Sculpture Garden. But I would encourage you to go and check it out now because they have recently redone the entire thing and it's really beautiful. There are 55 museums in the metro area, but there are 2 others that I would say you shouldn't miss if you have children. One is the Children's Museum, and then the other is the Science Museum of Minnesota, and that one is in St. Paul. We had a membership there and it was amazing. I think we went 3 times before we felt like we even saw all of it. And just about everything in there is hands-on, so there's nothing you're telling your kids not to touch. In fact, it's absolutely the opposite. They can touch and play and experiment to their heart's content there. It's really great. If you don't have a bicycle when you move to Minneapolis, you're probably going to want to get one because biking is huge here and all year round. So there are 4,000 miles bike paths in Minneapolis and the metro area, and those range from bike lanes on streets, city streets, to converted rail lines like the Midtown Greenway and the Loose Line Trail, and then something called the Grand Rounds, which are bike, walking, rollerblading trails that go around all of the lakes and the park system within the city of Minneapolis. And those trails alone around the lakes are 40 miles of available biking. And speaking of lakes and parks, Minneapolis Parks and Recreation District wins a string of awards every year for how great their parks are. Most people who live in the city of Minneapolis are only about 10 minutes from a park. Parks are central to the lifestyle of people here. They are community centers, they have tennis courts, pickleball, playgrounds of course, fields, and then a lot of them are actually centered on lakes, and they have restaurants, and you can rent kayaks, canoes, stand-up paddle boards, little paddle boats. It's a really fun thing to do in the summer, just like go hang out at the beach, rent your boat, eat there. I feel like I talk about eating a lot. If you're a sports fan, we have you covered there as well because we have professional teams of all sorts, and I mean football, baseball, men's and women's basketball, men's and women's hockey, men's and women's soccer, and I'm sure I've left something out. But if that's not enough for you, there's golf courses everywhere, and if you want to watch more sports, you can watch one of the many, many college teams. We have 34 colleges and universities in the Twin Cities metro area. So that we have a really educated population. 70% of people in the Twin Cities metro have had some college education. The Twin Cities is the home of the main campuses for the University of Minnesota, and they have some really famous alum there. There is the former Chief Justice Warren Burger, Bob Dylan. Nothing makes us prouder than Ric Flair. Minneapolitans and Minnesotans are outsiders all year round, and what that means is there's always a festival happening, and if you want to go to one in the winter, they've got you covered. You can go see the art shanties or participate in the Kite Festival held on Lake Harriet in the winter, or if you like, you can go to Holidazzle or the Winter Carnival. And then in the summer, there's some big ones then too. You can go to the Minnesota Fringe Festival, the Aquatennial, or if you just want to get some fried food on a stick, head over to the Minnesota State Fair. What to expect for housing? Well, the average price here is about $280,000, but that really takes into account homes at the low end around, $100,000 condo up to homes that are selling for the millions. So it's a little less expensive in St. Paul than it is in Minneapolis on a whole. And I mean that from a purchasing perspective and a renting perspective. So if you're going to be renting in the Twin Cities, you can expect to pay between $1,500 and $2,500 a month. As a real estate agent, I'm going to say you should just go ahead and buy. Worried about having access to quality healthcare? You don't need to worry about that in Minneapolis, St. Paul. So there is the University of Minnesota Medical Center, Northwestern Hospital, and several other large hospitals in the city. And then if you need something more specialized, we are within an hour and a half of the Mayo Clinic, which is just south of the city in Rochester. Even before Minnesota was on my radar as far as a place to live, I did know this. Like shopping for clothes, this is the place to go because you don't have to pay sales tax on it, and we have the Mall of America. I have to say I am a new fan of the mall. I'm not a fan of malls in general, but I went there and I had a good time, and there are a lot of really interesting stores in the mall that you can't find other places. That was a little bit about what to expect if you're moving to Minneapolis, St. Paul. And if you have any questions about life here in the Twin Cities, or if there's a neighborhood that you'd like me to explore, I would be happy to do so. Just touch base with me. My contact information is in the description box below, or you can leave a comment. Thanks so much for watching.